How about with relationships? It can be very impulsive in our relationships.
Interesting. I will hit that. So
I will hit that.
I will hit that. So I think so. Impulses are really interesting, right?
Yeah.
So you have like these really basic with really basic ones like itching and such, and then you have these more complex ones that are like like a learned behavior that you've practiced over time, whether you like it or not. Any behavior that we do over and over again becomes practiced and becomes ingrained,
Yeah.
and then through that action becomes an impulsive action. See, so like let's for instance, when I was much younger, I was much more prone to people saying things and then me taking them any way that I could take them to make it a personal insult so that I could so that I could justify getting angry. See?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
so once I learned once that became an inset kind of cycle, if you will, then that actually became a thing that I never thought about it again. I mean, I did eventually, but it became a thing where it was just an impulsive thing. Anytime that somebody said something to me and I wanted to, I would just turn it into a personal insult against me and use that as an excuse to get angry. So I was
Yeah.
impulsively getting angry at people. See?
And it's funny that that rationalization is
Because
something
we
that
we fast track it. Sorry. Yeah,
yeah,
that actually go ahead.
that rationalization is something that happened like or it not happens but is realized post fact. Like in
Correct.
the moment it was like
Yeah, I didn't think
impulse,
about that. It wasn't like, oh, I'm
instantaneous.
going to make this
Yeah.
plan that sounds kind of dastardly so that I can enable my own anger and attack people. But I mean, like ultimately speaking, like you're right.
Yeah.
This is a situation in which you can only a situation in which I didn't realize
Yeah.
until much later in my life when I started, moving forward and realizing that, hey, if I want to become a better person, I got to stop. I got to disable some of these bad habits that I have enabled in my life. I actually go
Hmm.
back through and rework them and be like, okay, well, I found that like I would impulse like people would say something and then I would be like, say something mean automatically. Like, whoa, like that's not who I am. That's not who I want to be. Like
Yeah.
I need to correct that. So I had to just like look at that. Like, okay, well, what is this? And like really have an honest.
What's the root?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like have an honest conversation with myself. Like, bud,
Hmm.
like I don't like this about me. Let's go ahead and restructure this. So it was actually the impulsive thing that once you recognize it, you can actually start rooting these things out and realizing, hey, is this a good thing that is impulsive, or is this a bad impulsive?
Hmm.
Like a good impulse. Let's because we just talked about some bad impulses. Let's
Oh
talk
yeah,
about a good
yeah.
impulse. A good impulse would be someone. A good impulse is when you cough, you cover your mouth.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
That's an impulse. Like,
Protect
well,
us from your germs,
yeah, exactly.
please.
Once it's not necessarily supernatural at first. Oh, that sounded weird. Like I meant like supernatural, not like supernatural. But like that's funny. It's not
Extra normative.
extra. It's not like automatic. Like babies don't come out of the womb knowing to cover their mouth when they sneeze or cough.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's something that we teach ourselves and learn over time.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
once we've learned it, it is impulsive. You don't think, oh, here comes a sneeze. I better lift my hand and put it into my face to block outgoing particles. We don't think all that.
Yeah, more
Once
like
we've had that thought and we've enabled that thought and we've practiced
my
that.
thought is more like, oh no, and then hachoo.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, yeah. Well, something's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so I mean, like, so
Oh, another good impulse. Eh, arguably good in my
sure,
case would be like you're walking by a homeless man and he's got a cup and you're like, I have change in my pocket. Bing, into the cup. That
sure,
was an
sure.
impulse. You didn't like set out for the day going to
I'm gonna
give.
look for a homeless man to deposit money inside
Right,
of his
right.
cup.
You're
Ha
just kind of
ha.
like happen by this guy, or maybe you're driving, and like driving, there's a lot of impulses happening all the time, constantly.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
real easy to just be like, oh, the light's turning green, quick, quick, give him money. Whether you advocate for that or not,
Sure, sure.
that's that's an impulse that we all
Yeah. So I mean, the
experience.
interesting thing is once we can start like realizing when we're being impulsive, because it's a specific feeling. You know, it's a and once you start like classifying what that means for yourself and having a hard talk with yourself, like, hey man, like what are some of my bad impulses? Also give yourself some credit and be like, what are some of my good impulses? Don't just be negative Nancy to yourself. It's good to be like, you know, I have some faults, but I have some strengths, you know, like that doesn't mean that I should work any less on my strengths or any more on it. Just it means that these things should be within, you know, within equal grasp of each other, right? Like you don't want, like you can't really just be, I mean, you physically can, you actually can. I was gonna say you can't really just be a horrible person and then go and give a bunch of money to charities. And then I was like, oh, actually, you totally can.
You totally can.
That's totally a viable thing that people do.
That's something that
so,
people
oh,
do
darn
often.
it! There goes my morals thinking for a second.
Yeah.
Or my what do you call that? Idealistic thinking.
Morals by money.
Oh jeez. So I guess like my point is to move past that silliness for 1 second is more like when we have these talks with ourselves, it's very easy to be very negative and to focus on the negative, but also it's important to focus on positive stuff while we're doing work on the negative.
Oh man.
And also when we're feeling really good, to also recognize that we're feeling really good because of all this work we did on all this negative stuff that didn't feel so good.
Yeah.
So and then that gives us more incentive to work on the harder stuff.
Do you have courage? And I'm like, I do have courage.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me that in this time of need. I appreciate you, fellow human. Yeah, totally.